Just like to offer a big shout out to Touchdown Digital, the sponsor of this week's video. Can you take or achieve really nice images using basic camera equipment? Hello, my name's Glenn Sumlin and you're watching Sniper Photography. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can take exceptional images with very basic equipment. In a small bag like this, I have my Canon 80D, which is a crop sensor body, and a plastic kit lens, the 10-18. And during this video, I'll be showing you how to do it where not necessarily it is the equipment that makes the image. So having said that, I'll make my way down to the small waterfall there and we'll go through the process and I'll show you why you don't need all this high-end equipment. Okay, just a bit of an explanation as to what camera I'm using. It's the Canon 80D with a 10 to 18mm kit lens. You can pick these up secondhand now for between $600 and $800. And the gist of this video is to, as I said in the intro, is to show you how you can take really, really nice images with a kit lens and a camera or a crop sensor body like this, without spending thousands and thousands of dollars on the full frame equivalent. Now the images I'll take here this morning, I'll put up at the end of this video, and when you look at them, you could probably think, well, I could have used my $8,000 camera and lens to take the same photograph, and that is correct. But what makes the photograph is the person behind it, not this. This is a tool of trade, and if you're just a person that just wants to go out on weekends and take a few photos of landscapes or your children, or you go on holidays and you're not one for printing images and printing them large like I do, well then why would you want to spend anywhere between $4,000 and $8,000 on a camera and lens thinking that it'll make you a better photographer or it'll help you take better images? That is rubbish, that's garbage. You might see these camera reviewers on YouTube, these so-called YouTube photographers. That's also rubbish. I mean, they're telling you need this is the best camera for that, this is the best camera for this. That's just hogwash. I'm going to show you how you can, with the right procedures and the understanding of photography, because that's what this is about, not this thing. This is just a box with a thing that you can look through, how you can take some really nice images. So go down to the track, see what's there, and hopefully I can explain to you why you don't need all this high-end equipment to do this. Let's go. Okay, I'm here at my first composition. I'm in a rainforest environment, so I've got the light on top of the GoPro here. I'm using my GoPro because the Canon 80D here is what I usually use to film my YouTube videos, both in-house and out in the field. But the GoPro is very, very good at this, mounted with a nice LED light. Now, basically, as you can see here, got the waterfall coming down from the right hand side. I have a lot of foreground element here. First tip, always include foreground into your photography, into your images, because what you have to do, you have to grab the viewer's eye. There's nothing worse when somebody looks at a photograph and they're looking all over the image to try and find something to focus on. The human eye has, and the brain, between the human eye and the brain, has this remarkable thing to gravitate to one point in a photograph. Also too, we're looking at a three-dimensional scene here, right? But the camera records it in 2D. So, and that is the reason for that is because you've got that flat plane of focus, and the camera only records a flat image. This is why you need foreground elements. It's also called building layers within the image. We have a strong foreground, we have a midground, and then we have the waterfall. But where do we focus? Well, my settings here are at f11, and I've raised the ISO to 400 and the shutter speed is 2 seconds. That's about probably perfect for waterfall photography. Now this is with a crop sensor body. This lens is not a fast lens, it's f4.5 to 5.6. I'm currently at 5.6. That's the widest, well, f4.5 is the widest, but 5.6 is pretty, you know, it's not all that, the opening's not all that large. So I've had to raise the ISO up to 400, which is okay. A good thing about these crop sensor bodies now, a lot of them can handle higher ISOs than what they did previously. So I'll take this image first. I have focused. I've got a 2-second timer. Oh, the good thing about this particular camera and all the other probably crop sensor bodies from all the other different manufacturers, it has an articulating screen, which a lot of my, well, all my full frame cameras don't. But I can see why it's so handy. But I'll take this shot here. So basically at the foreground, midground and the background, I focused about a third of the way in, a manual focus. We'll see how that one turns out. But this just goes to show that by understanding photography, you don't necessarily need all this high-end stuff. Let's have a look at this. That's very, very good with a kit lens. And you'll see at the end of this video when I place these images. So it's a case of, you know, understanding what photography is about, which is composition, light, and emotion, creating motion and movement. There's a saying that I always use with my students and when I'm talking at photography club nights, is that you have to understand the science of photography, and if you can understand the science and the craft of photography, you need to understand the science and the craft of photography. Once you do that, the art of photography will follow. It's very, very simple, but there's more to it than just having high-end camera equipment. I'm telling you now, you don't need it to do this style of photography. Yes, a wide open aperture helps on faster glass or faster lenses. I know a lot of people have crop sensor bodies like this with very good lenses, which that's a very good thing to do. So I'll find another composition and I'll get back to you shortly. Okay, people often ask me when should they shoot in portrait orientation, and the simple answer is straight after you shoot a landscape orientation. I have the camera in portrait orientation. The reason being, and this is where you got to think about your photography, is that this waterfall's very narrow. There's a bit of nonsense happening on this side with a massive fallen tree branch. Been here for a long time. This is a very spectacular, very rugged place, this here. But this waterfall is very narrow. It's very narrow. So by internal cropping the image, that's another thing you must try and understand, is to try and crop the image in the camera before you take the photograph. But there's a thing you've got to understand as well. What to crop out, but more importantly, what to leave in the image. That's a real art to try and grasp in your mind. So what I'll do, I'll take this shot. Once again, I've got a base, which is all these rocks here, and the waterfall. Excuse me. But it's very narrow. It's virtually at a 45-degree angle, this waterfall, and It's amazing, you know, a lot of people don't know about this spot, but I know about it, and I've been here a few times, and it's just absolutely gorgeous here. But what I'm trying to show you here and try and educate you on is that I'm using, once again, a crop sensor body here. I'm not using a super duper full frame digital SLR or a mirrorless camera that costs you $4,000 to $7,000. You really don't need it to do this, seriously, and you'll notice that when you see the image at the end of this video. But this is more about the technical aspects of photography. Nothing to do with the camera, nothing to do with the lens. It's a technical aspect. You are building an image with what Mother Nature has given you here. Now, there's lots of things to photograph here, but it's very, very chaotic. This is a jungle scene, basically, and you've got stuff happening everywhere. So what you've got to do, you've got to be very observant. You have to look for different features in the frame. This should be a very nice shot. Looking about 2.5 seconds. I'm shooting in aperture priority, and I'm adjusting my ISO as the light changes. Once again, it's technical things you need to know. Got nothing to do with how good your camera or lens is, quite frankly. So I'll take this shot and I'll get back to you very shortly at the next composition. Okay, I've changed my composition again, and I'm shooting in portrait orientation, only because, as I said earlier, that the waterfall is very very narrow. Just turn this light off. Got a bit of light here now, that's better. Now, as you can see here, I've got this beautiful moss covered rock here. That's what I call the foundation of an image. It's actually foreground, and I'm using exposure compensation. This is another thing you need to understand. Being a slower lens, and I'm wide open now at 5.6, not much light's getting in, so I've had to raise the ISO to 400 and do an exposure compensation of 1 stop. Once again, you need to know how to do this. Doesn't matter what camera you got, but you need to know how to do it. I'm sure these modern, very expensive cameras and lenses will make your life a bit easier, but that's a bit of a problem. It's like when automatic cars first became popular. There's no skill in driving anymore. And I find that with the modern technology with cameras these days, it's very hard to take a bad image. Well, in actual fact, I'll re-say that it is hard to take a very good image if you don't know what you're doing. So by using this crop sensor body, first released in 2016, a plastic 10 to 18 lens, which is Canon's widest crop lens, with a crop factor of 1.6. The 10mm focal length on this lens goes to 16mm, which is pretty good for landscape photography, don't get me wrong. And then at the longer focal length of 18mm, because it's 10 to 18, the 18mm works out, it times out by 1.6, roughly around about 30, 32 millimeters, could be 28, 29, something around there. So let's say 30, let's call it 30. And that's really good because most of my landscape images are shot at 24mm anyway on full frame. Yeah, naturally I get more light through a full frame. But at the end of the day, as I said at the beginning of the intro of this video, if you're not printing your images really large to put on the side of a bus, and you just want to put them on social media, show family, friends, work colleagues, whatever the case may be, you don't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to do this. I'm having a lot of fun with this camera. I mean, it's challenging, you know, it's challenging, and that's how you learn. Towards the end of this video, I'll sit down with you and I'll tell you exactly really why I think you should be looking at probably the second-hand market if you're moving from a mobile phone to a proper camera. I don't want you to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. I'd rather you spend your money on photography education, but more about the education part in a moment. Okay, another composition here, which is an absolute gorgeous, I was going to make a gorgeous shot this, and the reason being, here on your left-hand side, I've got this fallen tree trunk, which has been here for hundreds of years. And all the moss and ferns are growing out of it. And what I'm doing, that's a natural leading line. And that'll lead us up to the boulders and then into the waterfall. It looks really, really good on the back of the camera. The settings are very, very similar to what was up there, 2.5 seconds for the water. No need to focus stack this. F16 is going to do the job. But once again, it's all about thinking about your photography, looking at the environment and working with what you've got. But as I said earlier, if you can manage or understand the science and the craft of photography, then the art will follow. You must remember this. This is so important. If you can grasp and understand the science and craft of photography, the art will surely follow. There is no doubt about that, regardless of what camera equipment you're using. Once again, crop sensor body, I'm at I'm at 14 millimeters on this shot, which works out to be full frame about 20 millimeters, so full frame equivalent. But once again, the camera's performing brilliantly. I'm not doubting the equipment I'm using here, and nor should I, because I know what I'm doing. I know what photography is all about. It's not about how expensive your camera or lens is to do this type of photography. This video is aimed at people who want to put their mobile phone down or cell phone down, because I've been taking photos with it, and going and purchasing their first camera. And they get bamboozled. They seem to think that the more money they spend on a camera and lens, the better the photographer they'll be, and they'll get better images. It just doesn't work that way. Photography doesn't work that way, guys. It doesn't. So if you're new to this, I want you to watch this entire video, because on this channel I educate people, and more importantly, how to save money and don't waste money, especially when you're first starting out. Second-hand market's great. As I said, Canon 80D with a 10 to 18 lens. It could be a Nikon 5200, whatever the case may be, or some other manufacturer, Olympus, Pentax, doesn't matter. Have a look at the good second-hand market with low shutter count. Get a kit lens with it probably, and I can tell you now, learn with that. Learn with that. But more about that a bit later on. I'll just take this shot and I'll get back to you very shortly. Okay guys, I'm back at the car now, and that's about coming towards the end of this video. How this video came about, 3 months ago I asked the sponsor of this channel, which is Touchdown Digital, to do some research for me. The research I asked them to do was to find out what camera and lenses the viewers of this channel use. The people that subscribe, the people that just watch this channel, what camera and lens they use. Now these people found this out. To my amazement, 82% of people use crop sensor bodies and kit lenses that watch this video. And this is why this video is being put up here today. Basically, it was to show you that you don't need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on high-end equipment to do this type of photography. Yes, I used a tripod, which is a must anyway. But really, if you're new to photography, or you're thinking about upgrading, or you've been using your phone or cell phone to take photographs and you want to put that down and get a real camera, well, I suggest you don't go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars of hard-earned money, because that is just a waste of money and could lead to failure. Now, it doesn't matter how good your camera is or how old your camera is. A camera basically will not teach you how to take good photographs, and it certainly won't teach you how to become a good photographer. The only way you can become a good photographer is going out with what you have and learning and make mistakes. Learning and making mistakes is how you learn photography. Now, I don't think it's feasible for anyone, really, especially someone new to photography, to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars, up to $8,000 on a camera and lens, when you don't need to. What you have to do, you have to learn, as I said it during this video, and I said it a few times, you have to learn the craft and the science of photography, and then the art will follow. That's very, very important. Please remember this. Now, if you've got a crop sensor body and you're thinking about upgrading, think about where your skill level is. Your camera might be here, but your skill level might be up there, or might be even below. You really need to think about what you do, what sort of photography you do, and how often you do it. Yes, for me, the images that I took today, which you'll see at this end of this video, I could have taken with my $8,000 camera and lens, but I took it with a $800 or $700 kit lens and crop sensor body. And you can buy these for anywhere from $600 to $700, $800 used in very good condition with low shutter count. This is usually my video camera, but it's pretty good for stills, as you'll see in these images at the end. But please think about what you're doing. Don't waste so much money and buy all this new gear where you don't have to. If you watch these camera reviewers on YouTube, dismiss them. I don't think there's any value in that whatsoever, by giving someone a camera to talk it up and not tell you the truth. That is just out and out, I think, just bad. It's just bad form. But if you've watched this video through the entire video, if you watch the entire video here, you'll notice that I keep on saying, learn with what you've got. This camera really is released in 2016. I brought it new in the United States, actually, in 2016. And it hasn't missed a beat. It takes some excellent images, but it's the person behind the camera. This isn't the answer. This is not the answer. This just helps you, but it's not the answer. The problem I find with modern day cameras these days, it's like when automatic cars first became popular, the art of driving has been lost. And it's the same with photography. The art of photography is being lost through technology and people being fooled to think that you need high-end equipment to do photography, when in actual fact, you don't. You don't need high-end gear, I can tell you. So if you've got a crop sensor body, go out and enjoy it. Take as many photos as possible. Make mistakes with it. I mean, these are very simple, these are stupid, these things, right? But the person behind it can't be stupid. You need to know what photography is about. Light, composition, emotion, and feeling. That's what photography is about. It's got very little to do with how much your camera and lens cost you. I'm very passionate about this subject. I talk about this a lot to people, and I'll continue to talk about it to help you save money and to make the right choices and the right decisions. Because, as I said, I don't want you to go out and waste thousands and thousands of dollars because you think you need to. Backward thinking. So that's it for another episode of Sniper Photography. Please let me know what you think about this one. I'll put the images at the end. There's only 3 or 4 images. It was more about getting the message across, but showing you what you can achieve with pretty simple stuff. So as I always say, my name's Glenn Samuel. Thank you for watching me here at Sniper Photography. And as I always say, be nice to yourself, family and friends, but most of all, you keep smiling, keep shooting. Bye for now. Coffee time. It's cold.